I never thought silence could feel so violent. The living room, once filled with the scent of weekend pancakes and my mom's laughter years ago, now felt like a courtroom without a jury, just a judge with an axe to grind. Charlene stood in the doorway, one hand on her hip, the other clutching an empty velvet jewelry box like it was Exhibit A. "Where is it?" she snapped. I looked up from my textbook, confused. "Where's what?" She narrowed her eyes. "Don't play dumb. Girl, my necklace, the sapphire one. The one Martin gave me for our anniversary." "Martin, not your father, just Martin. I haven't touched your stuff," I said, my voice already shaky. This wasn't new. She'd accused me of things before. Missing food, a wrinkled shirt, even a cracked vase. But this time her tone felt loaded. "You're the only one who's been in this house all day." My mouth opened to argue, but the front door creaked open. My father stepped in, rubbing his temples like he always did after a long shift. Charlene's crocodile tears were already in place. "Martin, she stole from me," she said. He froze. "What?" "My necklace, it's gone. I checked everywhere. She was here, alone." Dad looked at me. His eyes didn't accuse me, but they didn't defend me either. "Is that true?" he asked quietly. "I didn't take anything," I said. Louder than I meant to. "I swear." Charlene stepped closer to him, lowering her voice. "She's been distant lately. Unstable. Maybe it's time she moved out." My heart dropped. "What? You're 17, she said flatly. "You're practically grown." I turned to Dad, expecting him to step in, to say something, anything. He didn't. He just looked away. And that's how I knew. That house wasn't mine anymore. They didn't even give me time to fully pack. Charlene handed me a duffel bag, like I was some stranger who'd overstayed her welcome. She tossed a pair of old sneakers at my feet. "Don't come back unless you're ready to admit what you did," she said. I looked past her to my dad. My voice cracked. "Dad, please, you know I didn't do it." He stood behind her, arms folded. No emotion, no defense, just silence. He turned his back and walked into the kitchen. The door closed. And just like that, I was out. No jacket, no plan. Just me, a bag, and a whole lot of betrayal. The night air hit me like a slap. I started walking. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away from that house. Away from those eyes that used to look at me like I mattered. I tried Erica's house first. Her porch light was off, no answer. Then Aunt Lorna's. I knocked and knocked. I saw the curtain twitch, but she never came to the door. My phone buzzed in my pocket. 1% battery, of course. I dialed the one number I never thought I'd use again. "Miss Lacey." Her voice on the other end was a balm and a blow all at once. "Kayla. I'm sorry to call, I didn't know who else to." "Where are you?" I gave her the nearest intersection. 10 minutes later, a red Honda pulled up, headlights cutting through the dark. She opened the door. "Get in." I climbed in. My body was trembling, but not from the cold. She didn't ask any questions right away. She just drove. "I've got you," she said softly. But as I stared out the window at the empty roads, I'd never felt more abandoned. Miss Lacey's apartment was small, warm, and smelled like cinnamon tea. It wasn't home, but it was a roof over my head. She handed me a blanket, a bowl of soup, and a quiet space to breathe. I sat cross-legged on the futon, the bowl cradled in my hands. My stomach twisted with hunger and shame. "How long can I stay?" I asked. Miss Lacey hesitated. "A few days. Maybe a week. I'm not supposed to house students. Even former ones. But I couldn't leave you out there." I nodded, my throat tightened. She sat beside me, her voice gentle. "Kayla, did you really take anything?" I looked her in the eyes. "No, I swear." "I believe you," she said. "And I did something I hadn't done in years." I cried hard. The next morning, I woke up wrapped in the scent of lavender and old books. Miss Lacey had already left for school, but she'd left a note on the counter, beside a banana and a muffin. "Eat, rest, heal, L." The kindness in those 3 words made my chest ache. I hadn't felt safe like this in a long time. But safety is a short-lived illusion when you've been thrown away. I decided to return to the house. Not to talk, just to grab the one thing that mattered. My mother's box. It was hidden behind the loose panel under my bed. She'd given it to me before she died. Told me never to show it to Charlene. Miss Lacey dropped me off a block away. I walked up to the house and waited until I was sure Charlene was gone. I still had the spare key in my shoe, tucked inside the lining. Inside, the house was cold, soulless. I crept upstairs, my pulse pounding. I was in and out in 10 minutes. Back at Miss Lacey's, I opened the box. There were letters, photos, and a single sealed envelope with my name written in my mother's handwriting. My fingers trembled as I opened it. "Kayla, if you're reading this, Then you're old enough to know the truth. There are things Martin doesn't want you to know. I loved him once, but he changed. And Charlene, she was never just a friend. Protect your heart, and if anything ever happens, go to the safe deposit box. Code 1993, there's more to your story. I stared at the letter. What had they kept from me? That weekend, I took the train to the city. The address on the key my mom left was downtown. I clutched the box, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. The bank clerk was hesitant, but the name on the key matched mine. When the box slid open, I found a USB drive, old photographs, and a journal. The journal belonged to my mom. The entries were disturbing. Charlene and Martin, something's going on. I found her earring in our bedroom. He doesn't know I know. I'm afraid for Kayla. If anything happens to me, I confronted Martin. He says I'm imagining things, but I'm not crazy. The final entry was dated just a week before she died. I feel like someone's watching me. Charlene has been calling the house when Martin isn't home. I don't know what they're planning. I stared at the words, heart hammering. My mom hadn't died from a seizure like they said. Something else had happened. I started digging. The USB had phone recordings, documents, photos. My mom had been documenting everything. Bank statements showed money being siphoned off her account, transferred to a name I didn't recognize. C. Langford. Charlene's maiden name. I printed everything. That night, I confronted my father. He opened the door and froze when he saw me. You shouldn't be here. I'm not staying, I said, pulling the envelope from my coat. But you're going to look me in the eye and tell me my mother died of natural causes. He looked pale. She was sick. She was murdered. His jaw clenched. You don't know what you're talking about. I know about the money, the affairs, the threats. I know about everything. Charlene appeared behind him. She's lying. No, you are. I held up the journal. And I have proof. Charlene's eyes darted like a cornered animal. You'd better lawyer up, I said. Because this time, you won't be throwing me out. You'll be the one leaving. Things moved quickly. Miss Lacey helped me submit everything to a lawyer friend of hers. The authorities opened an investigation. Charlene lawyered up. Dad tried to spin the story, but too much was out there now. What none of us expected were the anonymous letters. Someone had been watching Charlene. Someone else knew more. An envelope arrived at Miss Lacey's door. No return address. Inside, a photo of my mother with a bruise on her jaw. And a note. She tried to leave. They didn't let her. By the time Charlene was arrested for financial fraud, everything else started to crumble. Martin resigned from his job. His name was being whispered around town. But the DA couldn't pin my mom's death on him. Not yet. I got a scholarship to a prep school out of state. Miss Lacey helped me move. My life started over, piece by broken piece. Therapy, school, quiet. But I didn't forget. I kept the journal, the photos, the USB. Someday I'd write the book. Not for revenge. For truth. 2 years later, I was sitting in a college lecture when my phone buzzed. Charlene had taken a plea deal, admitted to manipulating finances, and tampering with evidence related to my mother's death. She avoided murder charges, but she'd never walk free again. And Martin, he sent me a letter. I was weak. I chose the easier lie. I failed you. I don't expect forgiveness. I burned the letters. Now, I live in a little apartment above a bookstore. I work afternoons and go to school full-time. Some nights, I still dream of the cold sidewalk, the slammed door, the weight of a lie. But most mornings, I wake up to sunlight, at peace, to freedom, because I learned something the day they threw me out. Being forced out doesn't make you broken. Sometimes it sets you free.
A month after Charlene's sentencing, I received an anonymous email. No subject. No text. Just an image attachment. It was a photo of my mother. Only this time, she wasn't alone. She stood beside a woman I'd never seen before, wearing hospital scrubs and a soft, tired smile. In the corner of the image, scrawled in permanent marker, 1998, Mercy Wing, St. Jude's. I stared at it for hours. Something about the woman felt familiar. After a week of internal tug-of-war, I booked a train to the address printed on the back of the envelope that followed days later, Gina Lambert, Laurel Springs. She opened the door cautiously, her eyes widening when she saw me. I knew you'd come one day, she said. You knew my mother? She didn't respond right away. Then she stepped aside and let me in. Gina poured tea with hands that trembled only slightly. The room smelled of chamomile and old hope. She saved my life, Gina whispered. Your mom. Back then. I was a wreck. Drugs, bad men, worse decisions. But she saw through it. She convinced the hospital to take me in as part of their volunteer rehabilitation program. That photo? It was the first day I decided to stay clean. I listened, trying to bridge the pieces. She mentioned you often, Gina continued. But she also said she couldn't protect you from what was happening at home. Then she dropped the bomb. She made me promise, if anything happened to her, I was to watch over you. Quietly. I moved back to Laurel Springs, changed my name, got clean. But I always kept a distance. My voice cracked. You sent the photo. She nodded, and the bruise photo. Her eyes filled with tears. That was mine too. I didn't know how to help without hurting you more. But I couldn't let her memory die in lies. A second family. A second chance. I didn't leave Gina's house right away. Some roots deserve a second planting. On my 21st birthday, Gina handed me a sealed envelope. She gave me this for when you were old enough. My hands trembled as I broke the wax seal. My dearest Kayla. If this finds you, it means the truth won. Somehow, despite all the odds, you made it. I always knew you were stronger than the pain around you. I am sorry for the things you saw, the people who failed you. But never forget, your life was never the lie they tried to make it. You are my greatest joy. And your future. It's still unwritten. Love fiercely. Live bravely. Mom. I cried. Again. Not from grief, but from release. Because I wasn't just the girl who'd been thrown out. I was the girl who rose, and I had the story to prove it.